Hey guys, Chaz with Exotic Specialty Parts. It's been a while since I made a video, but I finally have something I can film and hopefully it'll help many of you out. Many of you are familiar with my Ferrari 360 Sunvisor fixes, and I recently got an email asking if these would work for the 550. To be honest, I really wasn't sure. I hadn't taken a 550 visor apart to verify it was the same product. But good news, I had a local customer of mine that reached out to me to ask if I could repair his visors. So picked them up from him and brought them home and started looking into them, and it turns out they are the same thing. So you can use the same repair part that is dropped on the Ferrari 550s and 360s, likely other platforms. I'd have to double, triple check, but I'm almost sure that a 575 is also the same as a 550. Now when I refer to that, I am talking about this hinge mechanism. So this is the floppy visors. This one I've actually just completed the repair on. I want to make sure obviously it would work before I told you it would. But what would happen is these visors would just fall down in the car. They would lose that snap that holds them in the vertical position. Now this is a Ferrari, this isn't a beater Honda Civic, so you'd like to have these working properly, and who wants to go out and buy an entire visor? Much less trying to find a visor in original condition, OEM quality, with all the stickers, things like that still in place, matching your interior. So this one's repaired. It's very hard to show you an example by hand, but essentially, see, it stays in this vertical position and then folds down. It'll snap back into place. It's kind of hard to show. You can kind of see it there, so a little click into place, and that holds it in its upright position. So the repair occurs because there's a sleeve inside the sun visor, which I'll show you during the repair process. It's a metal tube wrapped in a plastic, and when they created these, they took the metal tube, injected the plastic molding around it, and the plastic molding has two flat spots on it. The inside of the visor has a metal clip, so that flat spot is here, the clip is here, and it latches onto that flat position. That's your parked position. So that would either be fully closed up towards the ceiling, or if you flipped it all the way around towards the windshield, it would reach that point as well and hold it up into the windshield for you. Anywhere in between, it's just kind of pinching the bar. Well, what happens is that plastic's molded around the metal sleeve, but it's not adhered to it at all. So over time, over several years, flipping the visor back and forth, you're taking that plastic sleeve and turning it around the metal, and it's working back and forth, and eventually it breaks. When that happens, the plastic sleeve is still in place, but it's freely pivoting on the metal tube inside. It's a little bit confusing, but you'll see as we do the repair here on what's happened and how to repair it. I will warn you, this is not an overly complicated repair, but it is a frustrating one. I'll delve into that a little bit more on the repair process of this one. I cheated. I did the easy one first. So the second one is a little bit more difficult, and this is related to the passenger side, which has an electrical connection that comes through it. I'll walk you through the whole process, but I want to give a little introduction to what we were doing today and how we're going to do it. Alright, I'm going to try and keep this video short and sweet, and to be completely honest, there's likely going to be an occasion where I cut out a lot of the work, but I will explain what I'm doing. I just don't want to make the video overly too long. The product we're going to be using is currently called 360 Vise Fix, or VIZFIX. It's available at exoticspecialtyparts.com. It is this repair sleeve here. I may retitle it, but it will still be along the lines of Visor Fix. Now that I know it works with the 550, I may add that in, just 360, 550, or something like that. But keep an eye out for the product, and that's what it looks like. Now, on to the repair process. I'm going to keep it very simple. So this is the passenger side. This is the more difficult of the two, and the reason for it is the electrical portion. So you see here the wiring that comes through. Originally, when they assembled these at the factory, these small pins inside this connector were fed through these tubes and out the process and put into the connector. Now you notice they're cut. Why in the world did I cut them? I cut them because by the time you remove these pins from this connector, it will typically destroy them. I would not recommend it if you are competent with a soldering iron. It is a better and simpler repair to just cut these wires, solder them, heat shrink them, and have a lasting repair afterwards. And I do recommend, you'll notice here these are offset, so you don't cut them in the same place. That way you don't get a big knot in the wires after you solder it together. So simple there. I'm sure not everybody will agree with me, but I do highly recommend this based on experience. Now, we'll start the repair process. This is the passenger side, so it has the mirror, which is lighted, hence the wires. Now, in order to take this apart from this point, to remove this piece for the repair, we need to remove the mirror. Now, it's not hard at all. You can use a small screwdriver like this, or I actually found, I just happen to have this ruler, and it works very well as well. So there's three tabs. There's one here, and one here that you'll need to separate in order to pop the mirror out of the visor itself. So I'm going to start down here. That one's pop free. This side already came loose. Let me kind of give you an angle on it to hopefully show. You can see the little tab right there, and then there's one right here in the middle. Sorry for the shadows. Yeah, one right here, and there's one more on the other side. Once the first two come out, you can probably just kind of wiggle it out. No, it's still stuck. Gonna have to push down on it just a little. There it goes. Alright, so that's pop free. That's your whole mirror. That's all there is to it. I'll set this to the side. And here is the inside. Sorry, there we go. Alright, and this is where your electrical comes into play. First thing I'm going to do is see about popping this out. There it goes. Get this one. There we go. That's it. So you see these little half horseshoes? You're just going to lift this up until it pops out of these little dowels. And there's the inside of the visor. Alright, next up we need a Phillips head screw. And we're going to driver, and we're going to take these screws out here. Sorry, I thought I had one here. Okay, got those screws out. Try to get under this and start to lift it. It's stuck to the adhesive for the fabric, but it's only barely stuck. There we go. With that lifted up, you can see our wires. I'm going to peel this fabric up just enough to get to our wires. And you can unplug these if you'd like. See right here, little spade connector. And then there's a black one down here. Pull them through. That's that. And the foam inside. And if you look real close, see if I can zoom you in. See, they fold in right here and they turn and go into this sleeve and come across. Not too bad. So I'm just going to slowly pull them. There we go. Now, fishing these back in, not fun at all. But we'll go through that process when we get there. Alright, with that out of the way, all you got to do is take this piece right here, twist and pull, and it comes out. Especially easy if it's broken. If you're very lucky and it's not all the way broken, be gentle with it, keep steady pressure pulling out and work it back and forth like this, and you might be able to pull the broken piece out. But where we're working is going to be right down inside this hole. It's pitch black in there. I'll try and throw some pictures. I'll take some of my phone real quick with light so you can actually see what you might see in there. Now in the photos I'm going to put up right here, you'll see that there's like a little flat area on each side of this broken piece. We're going to try to get very lucky with this, and we're going to try and pull that out of this hole in one piece. 99% of the time it's not going to work, and it's just going to crumble and fall apart, and we're going to have to chisel this into pieces, and this is why it goes into this kind of a pain in the ass. I am going to take a peek. I'm just going to lift the fabric right here and take a peek from the inside and see if I have any access. To be honest, I haven't done a passenger side myself to know. Now you can see the wire sleeve right here. This is where the wires run through to the inside, but you can't get to the actual mechanism, so I don't want to pull that fabric all up. So we're going to do it the old-fashioned way. So I've got a few tools. A good old flathead here that has a bent curve on the end. I try to use that to kind of reach through and grab the sleeve. If you can get it to turn 90 degrees, so it's not in that snapped position we talked about earlier, then it is a lot easier, to be honest. But I don't know that we're going to get that lucky on this one. Now, another trick I have used in the past, which I don't think I have one here with me. Yeah, there it is. I take an M6 by 1.0 tap, like you'd thread a hole with, if I can get it to focus. There we go. And I thread that into this plastic sleeve. It's barely going to grab, honestly, not very much. Just going to twist it. The teeth bite into it. And then I take a normal set of pliers, my cheap Walmart ones that are in my office here. Make sure they're tight. And I grab that tap and I kind of angle it. So I'm kind of, you don't want to bend it, but you want to angle it so those teeth bite in. Yep, nothing there. Kind of wiggle it back in. You might be lucky and get it to pull out the broken sleeve. Yeah, not so lucky this time. Now, I discourage you, I'll just say this from experience. This is an M6. I tried an M7, which is strange enough to have to begin with, but I tried an M7, but what happens is it swells the sleeve and makes it hold in even harder, so you don't want to do that. With this, you just kind of slide it in, use the barbs on the tap to kind of grab onto the sleeve and try to extract it that way. I'm going to try a couple more times just because I was getting a decent bite here. And the end of the sleeve is actually smaller. It's very similar to my design. Let me go ahead and open this one up and show you. So you'll see here, the sleeve is tapered on one end. That's to help with the install. And those are those flat areas I was telling you about. And that's what your visor clips onto. But the inside of the sleeve is a hole here for the wires to go through. You can see through it right there. And that is kind of what you want your tap to thread into and grab. It's the very end of the sleeve, but it's all the way in there. So I'll probably speed this video up and you won't hear anything else I'm saying at this point. But now, the reason I don't mind threading this into the end of the sleeve is because, again, it's tapered. So it's a little bit more narrow at the end. So even if it does flare out where I'm threading into, it still won't be too wide to come back out. So right here I'm running out of material to grab onto. I'm going to turn it one more time. Darn it. I thought it let go. So we're still fighting that piece. We got to get it out. And to give you an idea, what you're trying to get out looks pretty much exactly like this. It's broken off right along this seam. Again, get it focus. There we go. It's broken off right along this rear seam. So it's about this long right here. And you got to get this whole piece out. You can't drive it in because they enclose the visor right here. So if you tried to drive it out of your way, it's just going to run into that. Plus, you can't run your wires back through on your passenger side visors. So unfortunately, you have to get this thing out. So I'm going to go ahead and start picking at it and prying at it and seeing if I can grab something out. And please, this is a YouTube video. Please comment below if you find an easier way to do this. I'm very happy and I would like to share it with everybody else. So now I'm using very long needle nose pliers and I'm going to go straight in to the end of the visor here. The flats are at the top and the bottom. I'm going to try to grab the outside of it. Not so much luck so far. And sorry I keep pulling this out of view, but I can't see into it unless I lift it up. So now keep in mind the outer sleeve that this plastic sleeve is in is steel. So you're going to have a very hard time damaging that. Don't worry too much about that. Just watch out for your leather. Try not to slip the screwdriver in between or something like that. So what I'm doing here is I'm taking a tiny little flathead. I'm finding the edge of this sleeve. I'm sliding it in between the plastic sleeve and the metal sleeve. I'm going to drive it down in there just a little bit and then turn this with a pair of pliers. What that does is crack that plastic sleeve and start to break it up. Usually when I'm doing these, it takes about, I don't know, 30 minutes to get all of the sleeve out. I'm obviously trying to film, so it's going to slow me down just a little bit. I can't cuss as much, that's for sure. Oh, got another piece of plastic out there. I think I got a big piece here, starting to crumble. There we go. That's what you want, these long slivers, because that means you're getting further down. Mission success. So I got to the end of it finally. So you see this little concave tip. Once that's out, you know you've got it all. I usually kind of shake it, get all the shavings and stuff that fall out, but this is what you were after. This pile of rubbish. So with that out of the way, the trash can, sweep it away. Now we can move on to doing the repair. So I got that done. I'm going to set my visor to the side for a moment. We're going to grab this piece, which is your arm. Now preparing it is a bit of a task as well, but it's not as bad as what you just went through digging that plastic out. The first thing I'm going to do is sand on it, and I'm going to sand on it a lot. So this is some 40 grit. I just have a little loose piece laying here. It's a little, seen better days. I might grab a fresh piece, but we need to sand this. It's got the original, I think, just adhesive that they put on that sleeve that deteriorates and lets go of the plastic. It's that yellow tone. You need to sand this down and then continue to sand. Now, the rougher surface you have on this, the better, but it will take a lot of sanding. The reason I say that is I've designed these sleeves to be extremely tight fit. A lot of people complain about it and say they wish I would make this a little looser or a little bit bigger to make it easier to slide on here, but that friction is your primary support for your sun visor. We will put just a little bit of super glue on this to help bond it and prevent it from walking over time. But for the most part, the friction fit is what we're looking for. So, sorry ahead of time. I know it's difficult. It is hard. If you happen to break one of these in the process of installing this kit, I'll explain to you a few methods in order to prevent that, but I know stuff happens. I will cover it under warranty. Don't hesitate to shoot me an email, send me a picture of it that it broke, and I'll get another one right out to you. The only special case for that would be if it is international. Unfortunately, due to the expensive cost of international shipping, I will have to charge for shipping the second time. But if you want, you can also order 2 at the first try. And if you break one, send me a picture of it, I'll refund you for the other. So I'm happy to work with you. I know this is a frustrating repair, and the parts can be difficult to work with. I completely understand that. I want everybody to have a fixed sun visor, so don't hesitate to shoot me an email. I'll be happy to take care of you. Start sanding. Now, one thing I want to note about this is it's broken very far up this shaft. What that means is when I installed this, there's a lip inside this tube to prevent this from going on too far or too shallow. It's got a stopping point, and that sets your depth correctly. However, I'm going to end up likely with a gap down here. I think it's going to be about like that, about a 1/4 inch gap. And there's a simple trick to that to keep it looking nice. It's hidden, honestly, inside the visor. The visor will come up to about right here, so you'll never see this anyway, but there's one little detail I'll do here, and I'll show it to you once we assemble this. All right, I've been sanding this for about 5 minutes straight now. Got a fresh piece of sandpaper. 1 or 2 final recommendations. Number 1 is you're going to want to bevel the end of this tube just a little bit. That's to help you work on the new sleeve. And to do that, I just take, doesn't have to be a lot, just enough to take any burrs off. And the second detail is you've been sanding it just like me, I guarantee, around it, just turning the shaft like this. But at the end, you want to take and draw a few long straight stripes out. Give your adhesive something to bite into, because your rotation is going to be going this direction. So that helps there. All right, I'm going to get that out of the way. I'm going to grab a paper towel. I've got just a tiny bit of isopropyl alcohol here. I'm going to wet it, wipe it off. All right, the fun part. Now, a trick to this, to get this started. Now, there's something very important about this step here, because if you go too far, you can't go back, not in my experience. So you see these flats here, let me move all this out of the way, I'm sorry. You see these flats that are on this new sleeve. It is very important. You'll see a horizon, so imagine your visor's installed, this goes up into your ceiling. So this would actually go, sorry, I'm having to actually think, this passenger side, sorry. You gotta think about it. So the 2 screw holes are closer to the passenger with the shaft closer to the windshield. So it's gonna sit in here like this. What you're gonna look at is the plane that this bracket here is at. And you want these flats to be slightly tipped up from those flats. So I usually get it pretty much level. You'll see right here, and this is something you kind of have to eyeball. It's safer to be too high than it is to be too low. If you leave it too low, you'll have a gap between your sun visor and the ceiling. And if you get a little too high, it'll just press into the ceiling. So I'm going to turn this just a little more. And this is very tight fit. I've only got it barely touched onto the end of the shaft. It's probably only on here a millimeter or so. So now I'm going to look at that horizon, that profile I was talking about. I'm going to look at it from imagine it's installed in the car. It's because you don't want to have it tipped forward. It'll hang down. So you want to make sure the screw holes right here are facing you. And then you want these flats to be parallel to this or higher. So, wish there was an easier way to explain it, but unfortunately there's not. You just have to think about it in theory. So right there, I feel pretty good about that. I'm going to hold on to it and just kind of walk it on there as far as I can before it kind of gets solid. All right, so that right there, I'm going to double check, snug it just a little bit more. All right, so I don't think you're going to be able to see this in this video. I'll try though. So we have our horizon here, or our level where the top of this plate is, and you can see the flats on this, and they're slightly tipped up from where this is. So that way it's going to press into the ceiling. Now, I'm going to show you a tool that I have that I used to do this repair that you're probably not going to have, and this is where it gets very tricky. The best way to install these is to press them straight down. I'll press it until I get to the very near end, which I'll show you where that is, and then I'll put a drop of super glue on it, press it the rest of the way. And then I'll put some super glue into the end as well. Now, again, you probably don't have this tool. I wish you did, because it makes this a lot easier. Other than that, you kind of have to get creative. Now, some people will use pure muscle and press against the edge of a table like so, and just kind of slowly push it on. If you have a vise, you may be able to rig something up in there. Lots of other options. Some people have taken soft rubber mallets. I would not use a plastic or a metal hammer, but a soft rubber mallet and tapped it down. You just got to get creative. Good luck. All right, I'm going to pause this, flip it around, and show you how to do it. All right, so the trick to this is I've got the sleeve partially pressed on, probably about 2-3 millimeters. It starts to get pretty stiff. This is sanded a lot, and then the sleeve is clean and dry, the shaft is clean and dry. There it goes. Take this in my press, I'll line it up in here, put it here, kind of support it. And it's not that it takes this much pressure, it just keeps the pressure even. There we go. Paper towels seem to help quite a bit. Almost there. We're going to be getting really close. Take a peek. I'm down to the last little bit. All right, in just a second we're going to super glue it, but now we've got it pressed most of the way down. I just want to double check my depth and make sure everything lines up the way it should. So to do that is actually pretty easy now that you've got it pressed on there. The friction fit should be plenty strong. The super glue is some backup. But to do this, we're going to go in the vertical position, just like this, and we're just going to walk this back into its holder. You can put a little bit of grease on this if you want, but you really don't need to. Once it's pressed all the way in, it'll kind of stop and it'll look normal again. You'll see the shaft is all the way there. And now I'm just going to do a closed test right there. So it feels pretty good. It snaps into place the way it should. So I'm going to stand it back up straight like this. I'm going to walk it out. I'm going to put a bead of super glue right around the bottom of this and press it the last little bit on. Glue is going to go right here at the base of the shaft. And then I put just a little bit right here inside the tip at the end of the shaft. Not a lot, because you're going to run your wires through here. That said, lay it in here. Give it one last press into the lowest position. And you'll kind of feel it stop. There we go. Literally just a tiny spot. Let the super glue completely cure before you do the final install. I'm going to cheat, and I'm using Instaset. This will literally cure it within a moment. Smells pretty funky, but if you use that, your super glue dries instantly. It's a chemical reaction rather than air drying. Okay, that said, I'm going to clean my mess up here and do the reassembly. I mentioned having a trick to cleaning up this exposed shaft that's left afterwards, and that's easy. I just take a piece of heat shrink tubing, slide it over it, kind of get into that beveled lip there, and then shrink it. Honestly, Does not matter if you do this at all because that's fully hidden inside the visor once it's installed, but I thought it was worth mentioning, just something I do. All right, we're gonna take our sun visor. We're gonna slide, well, I'm gonna show you two ways to do this. I'm gonna show you the way I do it. So we take our wires from earlier, and we're gonna reinstall these. Let's pan this down just a little. So you're gonna open this back up, and down inside here you see that little hole. All you gotta do is feed these wires in there together. You can tape these up, I might have to. I'm gonna try to do it without it. All you're trying to do is get back to the outside of the visor. Alright, after some twiddling and playing around with it, finally got the wires to come through. I'm going to pull these pretty far to start, and then I'm going to take our repaired sleeve and I'm going to feed the wires through that. That part's super easy, it's just a metal tube. There we go. Finally. It's not typically that difficult, I just had a burr on the edge that was catching the wires. Alright, so once that's done, you leave the wires out and just kind of follow them. You don't want them to get pinched inside here, or inside here. So I'm going to twist and push while pulling some of the slack out of this, and then I'm just going to pinch them here so I don't pull them out by accident. So just going to walk them in. Get a little better view here. So just kind of walking this in. There we go. That's that. Our wires are all the way through. Our hinge is back in place. This is fully installed. Alright, time to put the mirror back together. It's quite literally what you took apart. I'm going to slide these in. Red on the top, black on the bottom. Reconnect right here and right here. Both of those in place. And to feed some wire back in. There we go. That's back together. I'm going to put all the screws back into it. And these don't need to be super tight at all. You'll feel them bottom out and stop. I'm going to stick this back in. Actually, I can probably do this. You need to make sure, let me flip this around. You want this little spring here, which is actually your power connection. You want to make sure this tab on the cover is tucked in behind it. So you kind of go in here, and then you can actually fight with it enough. You can slide the pin in at the end as well. I'll cheat here and just kind of push this out of my way just a little. Come on. There we go. Then I'm going to take this side. You want to make sure this power spring right here, this is actually the switch, is pushed out of your way. And then you're going to come down onto this side right here, and you're just going to pry this back into place. Slide the lid down in. It's a very tight fit. There it goes. And then the lid's back on. Right. Stick this end of the mirror in first. Come down to this side. Stuck. I'm hitting something. Oh, I think our wire here is in the way. So I gotta pull this red wire out to the side. And that is it, my friends. That is a fully repaired sun visor for a Ferrari 550. You of course plug this back in, stuff the harness back into the ceiling. You flip this down and around. Put your screws back in. Maintain all your motions and your repair. Guys, if you made it this far, then I imagine you're just as relieved as I am to be done with it. This is a bit of a frustrating repair, but it's one that is definitely needed on a car like this to enjoy it fully. Hopefully my video helped. Hopefully the instructions helped. Hopefully you have a working sun visor. If you have any problems with any of the parts or have any difficulties with it, feel free to reach out to me, chaz@exoticspecialtyparts.com. If you have any product ideas or anything else you're looking for, please let me know. It comes down to I really enjoy designing these parts and making these designs. I enjoy saving some money while also doing an efficient repair. We're not really in the world with exotic cars of just replacing everything. It often happens, and it's quite expensive, as many of you probably know, but I would like to get back to a world where we're able to actually repair parts and repair things. Hopefully this puts you on the same path, and hopefully you send me some more ideas and we can make some more things together. Anyway, thanks for watching. Chaz at Exotic Specialty Parts.